Well, welcome back, my scurvy scallywags, to our little pirate empire that we're building. Today, my friends, we have much to do, such as places to plunder and people to rob, of course. At the end of last episode, we had actually captured one of our fellow pirates, if you could even call him that, as he appears to be from a separate faction. With that being the case, it's time that we totally strip him of his identity, and to go about doing so, to start off, we're going to take that flag of his and we are going to be repurposing it. Personally, I think it looks much better on Hughes anyhow, carrying our beautiful skull and bones. We are going to allow him to carry it into battle and on the high seas, as he is the youngest member, of course. God knows the boy could use a boost in morale and also indoctrination. Now then, focusing back on our city, this small little horn on our island. I wasn't all that sure what we should end up putting here, but since we have plenty of tents and other camping gear, I thought it might be a good idea to set up some little camps here, not too far away from our trading depot and our docks. That way any traders that we have for the time being can stay here, some of their less wealthy members. Not to worry though, by the end of the episode, I think I'll be building somewhere different. That way, if we have any French officers or someone of maybe a higher stature who need better accommodations, they'll have somewhere they can stay while they're here too. We also built ourselves a little horse-drawn carriage here. Perhaps we'll use it to drive the officers and others who visit around the city. Not really for trading or anything like that, as we are currently on an island, and as you well know, the only other occupants of the island tend to be the British, and yeah, we're not trading with them, obviously. However, taking a look at our island here, I noticed that they have set up yet another outpost, and this one is actually on the shore of the island, hopefully within firing distance of our ship's cannons. I think we'll head on over and see what we can do with that. If we're lucky, we may have arrived soon enough that they haven't built any frigates yet, and perhaps they won't even have that many soldiers. Not to worry though, back home we're going to be leaving Maker behind to warden our friend Aloe here, currently sitting in our jail cell. Taking him with us could be a gigantic risk, because if he gets out of the brig on one of our caravels, he could easily jump over the side and try to swim to the shore away from us. It wouldn't take us very long at all, sailing around the island until we would finally reach the shores of this new outpost. Thankfully, it appears to be a little bit smaller than we had anticipated, and they don't even have any proper ships. It seems like they're relying on canoes. It is possible that they are experiencing the same issue here that we are, where we don't have enough wood to build enough ships. And perhaps their main government doesn't want to expend resources on a tiny little sand island in the middle of the ocean. Either way, I'd say it's a blessing for us. I don't expect this to be all that difficult, with all three of our ships in our fleet arriving just near their docks. Rise and shine, boys. Our ship's cannons would roar to life, with large lead and iron balls flying through the air. Hell, there might have even been a stone chunk or two in there, whatever we could fit down the barrel, realistically. And their little base here was quickly turning into a large stick that had been thrown into a big wood chipper. After our first initial bombardments, we had completely cleared out the outpost, its residents fleeing for their lives. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Normally, I would say that we should tear up these bridges and other things for their resources like wood, which we desperately need, but there's hardly anything left, and it would be a lot of hassle, to be honest with you. We did have plenty of silver and other plunder lying around. See that there, young Hughes? Go ahead and pick it up there, lad. It's your first taste of riches, true riches. And there's a lot more where that came from, son. Just stick with us. By God, Baker, we might just make a pirate out of the boy yet. Lad's got a hankering for money. That's a good start, I'll say. Now, if only we could teach him how to sail. Like I said, we had a decent bit of money lying around here, but not only that, we also had many other other resources such as cloth, cigars, cigarettes, tobacco, and also weapons, of course. So naturally, since we're already sailing out and about on the ocean, we decided to head up northeast a little bit to one of the tribal settlements to do some trading. And we would also end up visiting the little shelling site here, where we have two factions fighting for resources due to the global temperatures rising, as we saw last episode. Even from the sea, we could see a gigantic fire burning in the distance. Looks to be a small little village with a British frigate docked, with many a Brit and Frenchman jabbing each other in the guts with their bayonets. If I had to throw out a guess, I would say that the Redcoats have docked here and attempted to sack this little French village right before their reinforcements arrived, most likely looking for food and other resources. Initially, we had hoped to maybe commandeer that frigate, but it looks like it's going to be burnt here in about 5 seconds, so instead I think we'll just pull up to the dock and open fire. Now, this wasn't exactly the best idea, as our cannons can't really tell friend from foe, but I doubt anyone's going to really notice that we were the ones who hit the French. And besides, it was the safest option for our pirates, of course. Both parties would end up fleeing the land, and I could see quite a bit of carnage. That gentleman there missing the legs in the French blue could be our handiwork, but our little secret. There wasn't really much here for us except for some of the sailing instruments and reinforced wooden panels from the British frigate, so I think we'll take those back home with us. The journey for which to arrive back home would of course take a few days. In the meantime, it looks like we might have a serious threat on our hands. Looks to be a woman with a very interesting rifle with 3 dogs in her company. Hard to say who she's affiliated with, but something tells me she's not here for a tea party. Maker would rush out to man the cannon for her arrival. Shredding many a part of her body, that gave her quite a jar. I think this fight just became a little bit easier, with that blast hitting her directly and disorientating her even more so. Something tells me she's gonna have a very hard time hitting us with that rifle. We rushed through our main building here, trying to cut her off on the other side, but to our surprise, she would end up running away. And then something of a shootout would begin. Naturally though, since she can't hit the broadside of a barn at the moment, and because Maker has his trusty hand mortar, this fight would end just as soon as it began. Well, she put up a pretty decent fight, and if nothing else, she did manage to cause us to destroy part of our building. We still needed to take care of those blood-sniffing hounds, though, filthy mongrels, with a blunderbuss in his hands as they began chasing Maker throughout the city. He would blast them and kill them quite easily as well. Now then, the question remains, who are you? You're obviously not with the British or the Prussians. Something tells me having those dogs with you means that you're most likely a bounty hunter. Well, you were, at least. I suppose we shouldn't be surprised by this mysterious, unexpected guest. I'm sure the captain has a pretty penny on her head all around the main continent. Either way, I suppose we should thank you because you did bring this nice new rifle into our midst. Since Maker is the one who finally took her out, well, he was the only one here technically, we will let him keep it. Now, time to repair the building before the captain and the others return home. We'll be sure to report this to them without explaining that we destroyed a good portion of it. They might understand. I mean, it was kind of like killing a fly with a shotgun. There's bound to be some damage, but it's best that they think we're as safe and strategic, I guess, as possible. Thanks to our lighthouse guiding us last night, it was quick and easy to find our way back home, and we ended up docking and releasing all of our brand new cargo, resources, weapons, and anything else that we hadn't already sold. Now all we gotta do is get all this shit hauled in. Our little pirate/privateer merchant city here is doing quite well, but there's always more money to be made. And in fact, we have plenty of tobacco leaves in storage that need to be sold. For this little trade voyage, we are going to be sending out Hughes and Martin, each one in their own separate cog ship. It'll be good for Hughes to man his own cog, that way he can get used to sailing. With Martin being our right-hand man, there is no one better than he to take care of Hughes on this voyage, although, of course, it is going to take them some time, so we'll check back in on them in a little while. Meanwhile, back home, we're going to be working on some new buildings around the city. In particular, we are going to be making a tailoring shop, as well as a research building. Pretty self-explanatory here, but I just wanted some upgraded storage and dedicated storage for all of our leathers, and most importantly, our cloth. We may end up making some uniforms or something, perhaps for the French or somebody, to sell to them in the very near future, and of course we also plan on tackling a few research projects pretty quickly as well. And of course, since we have an ever-growing population, we are once again going to be building some stone cozy cottages. Now of course, we do have our barracks still, but as we get more familiar with many of our members, we want them to have their own proper homes to themselves. It was during this construction period when Martin and Hughes would finally return home from their trade voyage with, well, not much silver, but it was an okay amount, I suppose, for a first trip of Hughes's. With that, our new residential area was completed, and as you can see, we're really trying to beautify things, as we're not just a bunch of filthy pirates and salty dogs, we're privateers in our own personal city, and we want things to look nice. With all the construction out of the way, we could finally start on some proper research as well, with that being naval tactics. Now, what this is going to allow us to do, along with those resources that we took from the British frigate, is to build some frigates of our own. Maker would get right to work on that for us, and in the meantime, we have some tribes people to do some trading with, as we have a shaman merchant right in our town square. Other than their silver, shaman merchants normally didn't have anything that we were too interested in, except for their books and tales of woe, which we would end up purchasing one. Reading helps us keep the boredom away out here on the Isle. During this time, we also finally ended up recruiting Aloe. He was a bit of a tough nut to crack, but understandably so. That's the type of person that we would want in our pirate crew. A big old fella for shooting and fighting, but not easily persuaded against us. We put a good old Baker rifle in his hands and gave him some more appropriate attire, of course. Now, if you, such as I, have a keen eye, you may notice he's only gripping that rifle with one hand. And this would be because we had actually shot it off. Well, Martin shot it off during their little skirmish when they first met, so it's perhaps a better idea to let him carry his sword. Now, with our population growing, we have been building new homes and barracks and things like that, and of course, all of those areas are going to have their own seating and tables for people to enjoy their company with other folks or by themselves, and also to eat, but the vast majority of people are still eating in the kitchen of our main area, so I wanted to upgrade our tables and seating there. Looks like our dining room beautification, though, is going to have to wait, as we have some Impid tribes people who have come to try and sack our city. Oh, you poor sods. Much bigger and better fighting parties have tried, and all have failed. Since they were coming in such a large group, the captain herself would actually go out and start trying to build a cannon. However, this would be interrupted by a few different attacks by these tribespeople, and after a while we just kind of realized that we weren't going to be able to build this cannon, and it was time for us to fight. Their initial wave of warriors would begin coming towards us, and we would stay in a tight formation together, muskets at the ready firing at them. Thankfully, each of their barrages of flaming arrows would completely miss us, and we never got quite close enough for them to use their flaming breath. Something that was a top priority for us. As you could imagine, we didn't want to be scorched and burned. Eventually, though, after killing many of them and injuring quite a few more, we would put them on the run. Now that they're running away, we could focus on taking some of their injured members with decent skill sets in. Now, we would actually prefer some sailors from perhaps the Brits, the French, Prussians, yada yada yada, or even some other pirates as our growing pirate crew, but the Impid warriors like this are pretty used to roughing it, and they're also pretty tough, so we'll take take them. But other impids weren't the only creatures that were going to join our crew. We would also have Aloe go out and begin attempting to tame some coyote. My initial idea here was to have some of these skinny little doggos tamed. We could breed them and then use them as attack dogs, but we'll see where that goes. Since we only have the one in the area right now, we're going to be treating it more like a dog, and we're actually going to let Hughes keep it as a pet. Now eventually we might put some armor on it, we might breed it, I don't know, we'll see. Either way, I do know that every young boy needs a dog companion. We had also gotten some French traders arriving on our isle here who were telling us about a warrant that was out for one of their traitorous soldiers. Apparently this lady was wanted for sabotage for working with the Brits. Now, we're not too keen on bounty hunting, but for our allies, I suppose we could make an exception. Besides, they're going to pay us pretty handsomely anyhow. So, Martin, Hazel, and Hughes would set sail due north to arrive at this little encampment where the target is hiding out. As you well know, this is going to take a while, so in the meantime, we also ended up finishing our research into naval tactics. Of course, meaning that now we have the proper knowledge to build our own frigate, as well as a handful of other ships, but we still need the resources to do so, and of course this means we need plenty of reinforced wooden panels. A long and tedious process of making them, but well worth it for a sturdy ship. And we would waste absolutely zero time building our very first frigate. Now, as this is going to be our strongest, fastest, and most durable ship, it is now going to be our new flagship. Given that this is the case, we are going to be renaming it the Black Widow XXL, since it is much larger than our current Black Widow ship. We'll leave the name the same on that one, since I, well, already named it that, and it's already got the appropriate paint job. Not only is the new flagship very sturdy, but it also has the same amount of cannons that fire much harder and seemingly much faster. I can't wait for our enemies to see this bad boy pulling up off the shore. Speaking of which, Martin and the others had almost arrived at this outpost, sailing upriver against the current, making it extremely slow, of course, but eventually we would arrive at a small little landing here where we planned on having Hughes staying behind along with the ship, get him some experience in with that, but also keeping him out of reach of danger and having his head shot off by a bunch of British riflemen hiding in the tree lines. This little trip was very tedious. I'm really hoping that we get a little bonus with our reward money, but I suppose we'll have to see. After several hours of traversing the treacherous jungle landscape, we would finally arrive. A strange little stone hut with defenses all around it. Luckily for us, the dense vegetation of the jungle will make it quite easy for us to sneak up. I found our target, and it appears that she's simply wielding a sword, and her cohort a Baker rifle. Although I don't think it'll be all that difficult, we should still be quite cautious. Caution, yes, but silence and sneaking isn't exactly Martin's style. Well, I think that very well may have gotten their attention. We would begin tracking down the guardsman and firing our mortar, killing him, and next up was going to be the target. And since things were getting a little bit more close quarters, we decided to swap over to our trusty revolvers, and I'd call that a job well done. Target is down, and her friend is actually laying over there bleeding out. Initially, I thought we killed them, but I suppose the jungle animals will help finishing them off. Now, time to load up this corpse and start heading north a bit more. I hope they have pemmican around here somewhere. It's going to be a long walk. After several hours of journeying, we finally arrived, we fulfilled our warrant, and we got paid. No extra bonus, unfortunately, although we did end up selling some of the weapons and other things to them that we found at the camp. It was time for us to start sailing back home. We may not have gotten a bonus, but the French would make up for it in terms of other ways, such as a trade caravan back at the base, where we would end up selling them many a weapon here as well that we've gotten from several different raids trying to attack us. We made a good few fistfuls of silver, and we even bought some beautiful pauldrons for our captain. I know these aren't actually called pauldrons, but I forgot forgot the word for them. This was a very fitting piece of attire for the captain's gorgeous uniform, but I continue calling her captain, and many of you have pointed out in the comments, given the size of our pirate crew and fleet by this point and us being privateers, she wouldn't exactly be that anymore, would she? As pointed out by our good friend Leonixok, I apologize, I've definitely butchered your name, but Ms. wouldn't exactly be a captain anymore. She would actually be a commodore. There were so many incorrect pronunciations in that, and I'd like to apologize, but I think that this new title is much more befitting. And it looks like some other folks are beginning to take us a little bit more seriously as well, including our enemies, the British, as they've set up some peace talks on our island. Well, of course, we can't just leave them hanging out there. We should go out and try to make friends, I suppose, so we decided to reroute Martin and the others to stop in at this little nearby peace talk negotiation area. It looks like a temporary little village that they've set up in the last few days. With so many ships under their command here, it's a little strange that they're looking to make peace. Looks like one of their officers is waiting on us with a little kettle full of tea. How typical. Well, we were coming up on the village and preparing to dock. It's time that we end this feud and this fight with the Brits, and it's time that we turn them into a proper ally. Oh, you didn't think I was serious, did you? You really think that we were going to bite the hand that feeds? The French are our only allies for now. Peace talks. The way I see it, they invaded our island and are trying to prevent us from doing what we do best. This was nothing more than a grotesque display of dominance, and we won't take any part in it. You sick bastards, we'll have peace when you're all dead and off our island, and we'll make damn sure that happens. Finally, after a very long and very eventful journey, Martin, Hughes, and Hazel have returned home, dropping off all their goods, of course, though we can't help but wonder just what the Brits are going to do now. We thought that they hated us before, but after this, after we practically spit in their face, I hate to see what comes next. Though whatever it is, I'm sure we can handle it. But the best way for sure to handle our enemies is to continue growing and expanding our empire on the island. A larger base and fortification is going to make it all that much more difficult for them to try to defeat us. One of these buildings that we need is a proper tavern. My opinion, the burning sands of our home island here are dry enough. It's time we had a proper place for us, not only us as a matter of fact, but all of our traders and visitors who come here to wet our whistles properly. I think the only thing we're currently missing are some proper recreation spots for everyone to enjoy some poker and blackjack and stuff like that, but we'll need to grow a little bit more cotton so we have enough cloth to do that. We do currently have some great storage facilities for all of our double-aged liquor as well as beer, and we also have some rooms that we're going to be renting out. Now, earlier on this episode, I was talking about some rooms like this that we would rent out to maybe French officers or some merchant leaders, people like that who are a little bit more important than the usual crewmates, and this is where that'll be. Many of you fine folks have been suggesting a tavern, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you all for the idea. In particular, our friend Six Wing Zombie had the name for the tavern, and that being Drunk Hyena, very reminiscent of the time that all the hyena came and drank up all our good liquor, so I love it. If you were paying attention, you might be also asking why there were a bunch of alligators running around in our streets, and I was actually asking myself the same question. Looks like they're some type of battle animals, and I suppose our pirates threw out some scraps of meat or something, and they've become quite accustomed to staying here and being fed by us. It is possible that the Brits were trying to tame these animals and train them to attack us or someone else, and they've gotten loose. Who knows, but it looks like they're ours now, so if you'd like to name them, be sure to do so, as well as our coyote. As you can see, we built him a little pen just off the side of the tavern. Maybe we'll start charging people to come over and pet them or something like a zoo. Either way, we're going to keep them well fed, and hopefully they'll take care of us. We also had a great name by our friend Connor V1V for our main building, with that being Vidal Vindictum. Once again, apologies on the pronunciation, but it is Latin for widow's revenge. Revenge, yet another very fitting name, given our leader's past with her fiancé being taken far too soon from us by those damn dirty redcoats. And before we wrap up the episode here, it looks like we have another pirate under our command, one of the impids going by the name of Kevaz, which I'm probably just going to refer to as Kev, has joined us. Seems like he's much more familiar with a bow and arrow than he is a rifle, but he'll get used to it. Besides, it was nice to finally have yet another impid aboard the crew. Now finally someone other than the Commodore herself knows what it's like to have that burning feeling in your gut. Quite literally. We've accomplished some pretty big things this episode, and we've expanded the city even further. I think next episode we might start trying to build some defensive walls to help us kind of cap off our territory here. But that'll be next time. I'll see you later. Goodbye.